has been with me from the very start. And both of them were taken from this world unexpectedly. And as Jesus is telling his disciples to be awake, to be aware, to be on guard in a way, I'm reminded of two people who were taken from this world. And one was my mom's mom. When my mom was a freshman in college, long before she met my dad, her mother was struck and killed by a drunk driver. And my mom had just turned 19 years old, and she said her whole world turned upside down, and nothing has ever been the same. That assurance that the people you love will always be there was taken from her at a young age. Now, across the country in a different time zone, my dad was the same age when his father died very unexpectedly. He had been suffering from depression, and he took his life soon after Christmas. So two people who I've never ever met have been in that great cloud of witnesses. My dad will refer to his dad and talk about good times they shared together, tell my sisters and me about the difficult times they went through. But this man who lived long ago, in my view, has had a profound impact on me, because a lesson my dad has told me is that whenever things seem so bad that you can't go on, please, girls, he says to my sisters and me, please, girls, let us get you help. And my mom makes sure that every time my sisters and I, or now her grandchildren and sons-in-law, whenever we leave the house, whenever we leave their company, whenever we're parting, even if I've just stopped in to drop off mail that came to my house instead of theirs, my mom always gives me a hug and a kiss and stands at the front door until I pull out of the driveway and waves goodbye. Two things that have shaped me are the fact that these two different grandparents died under very different circumstances, but they have taught my parents to be prepared. They've taught my parents to be on alert and to live the love that we say we have for one another in a vibrant, tangible way. On this Sunday after Thanksgiving, I suppose that many of us still have turkey and stuffing still in our systems. And yet here we are, plummeted into the first Sunday of Advent. Becky, you did a lovely job telling the children what Advent is, and I love in the bulletin that you've got a little block on the last page that says what Advent is. So whether we're ready for it or not, whether you've made the turkey soup or not, whether you've finished all the leftovers, Advent is here. And the timing of this is interesting and ironic. The scriptures assigned for today are dark, talking about the end time, the unexpectedness, the vagaries of life, the warning that if you knew when the thief was coming in the night, well then of course you'd have turned on the anti-theft system. Of course you'd have all the lights on in the house, and you'd have your finger on the phone ready to press 911. And at the same time, we light the candle of hope. We light the candle of hope on the first Sunday in Advent as we hear these warnings. I got a call this morning really early from a dear friend who I've known for a long time, and her brother is dying of cancer. He's been the rock in their family for years and years, the oldest son. The cancer is spread to the bones, and he's in awful pain. And she said, I know I should be doing something to get ready because Trent could leave us as soon as tonight or by the end of the week. I know I should get ready, but I don't know what to do. She said, I go over to see him every day and I just sit with him and I hold his hand. And I said, Sandy, you know that what you're doing is what Trent needs. It's what you need. Just to be together, you're helping out, your presence, and your prayers. There are things we want to prepare for, and I think hope gets in the way of that. I think we can't fully prepare ourselves for the end of the life of a loved one because that hope stirs in us. Our imagination comes to life when we want to believe that no matter what happens, our beloved is going to live. Our beloved is going to be released from pain. Our loved one is going to be okay. And we hang on to that hope at this time of year when Christmas is coming and our lives have been turned upside down by an election, by war, by the death of a loved one, by an awful diagnosis, by the sad words that, Mom, Dad, I'm not coming home this year, by the slamming door and the child who says, I hate you, Mom. Our lives are turned upside down, and yet into each of us, God grants that gift of hope, that light, that candle that burns in the darkness, and the darkness will not and cannot overcome it. The hope that my parents both took from the early deaths of their parents was that they couldn't control the vagaries of everyday life, but they could instill in my sisters and me a sense of hope, of love, of respect, of compassion, of appreciation. Appreciation of one another, appreciation of each new day, appreciation for the gifts that we've been given, the health that we've got. And even though my sisters can drive me crazy, and I bear the scar of my youngest sister's fingers digging into the back of my hand from 6th grade, I do appreciate them because my mother said I had to. God doesn't say we have to, but God gives us this opportunity to be hopeful in darkness, to explore the fullness of Advent and find God's hope for God's world in that. To see what God has in store for us as we prepare ourselves to receive the coming of the Christ child. My very favorite preacher is Barbara Brown Taylor, and she invites us during Advent to wake up to each new day and to live it fully. Decide to live the life that God has given us right now. To refuse to live yesterday over and over again. To resist the temptation to save our best selves for tomorrow. But to live a caught-up life, not a put-off life, so that wherever we are ready for God. Ours may be the generation that sees the Christ riding in on the clouds, or we may meet Jesus the same way that generations before us have, one by one, as each of us closes our eyes for the last time. Either way, she reminds us, our lives are in God's hands. And so I wish you an Advent season of getting ready, of preparing not just the tree and the turkey and the gifts and the cards, but of preparing your hearts to receive God's gift, the hope of the world, of figuring out how you can be a part of bringing the reign of God into this world, and that through you, the light of hope, the light of God's love may shine so brightly that those around you can't help but know how hopeful and how loving you are. Amen.